States. For the pharma sector, we have, of course, a lot of concerns in terms of what's happening with pricing, in terms of what's happening with US FDA. A lot of these issues are there, and we are now joined by Habil Khorakiwala, founder, chairman, and group CEO of Wockhardt. Mr. Khorakiwala, good morning. So, a lot of headwinds emerging from US of late, whether it's the FDA inspection or the, Trump policy on drug pricing. Do you get a sense that these are not just near-term headwinds, but bigger business challenges for pharma companies? Or do you think Indian pharma companies can overcome these challenges?
I think before I respond to your question, let me pay a tribute to one of the stalwarts of the industry who just passed away, Mr. Gupta of Lupin. He was really a symbol of the emergence of India in terms of our industry, especially for the US market. And that is why Indian companies have nearly 30–40% of prescription in the US market.
Yes, that point is taken.
Responding to your specific question, I think Indian companies have been very competitive in the US market. And from nowhere over 10–15 years back, we have gathered a large percentage of market, and that shows fundamental strength of the Indian pharmaceutical company. So these changes of policies are there, but I believe sometimes in challenges there are opportunities. So there may be a temporary setback, but I think going forward, I think Indian industry will hold its ground in the US and the global market.
Mr. Khorakiwala, morning, sir. But can you give us some sense of the kind of price erosion that Indian companies would be factoring in? I mean, earlier we thought it'll be high single digits, and there were reports suggesting it could maybe even touch double digits. What are we in for over the next 6 months to a year?
I think there is a pricing pressure because the level of competition has increased, and I believe it will remain between 7 to 8%. Overall, but some companies may be affected a little more aggressively than the others. It depends on the portfolio. If the companies have a more simple product, there will be higher price pressure. And the one which has technology and complexity have relatively lower price pressure.
Would you sort of, oblige us with some sort of a rough range? I know these things are hard to predict and guess, but are we talking about, 7 to 8% on your, your bulk products? Or are we talking about more than that or less than that on the usual products, not the complex generics?
Yeah, I think it will be around 7 to 9%.
Okay. 7 to 9% could be the expected pricing pressure emerging from the United States. So your thoughts on the Trump draft order on drug pricing? They are talking about reviewing the price differentials between the foreign governments and the United States. What does it mean for Indian pharma?
See, this is a reflection more of the branded and innovative products. As far as generic is concerned, in US, the price points are among the lower end than the European and other parts of the world. But as far as innovative and branded products, there is a positive price advantage in US. And I think the Trump discussion is primarily directed towards that more than anything, because that will bring a much larger saving to the US healthcare system if something of that order comes into play. But at the same time, one has to recognize that the greatest innovation has taken place because of the current US policy in the United States for finding new drugs. So the administration has to weigh for finding new drugs and encouraging that versus bringing down the prices.
Okay. Sir, would you also give us some sense on how sort of you see the year shaping up for Wockhardt itself? We recently got the news of a settlement, for instance, that was good news coming in for the company just last week. I believe it was with Teva. But how do you see the year shaping up in terms of different geographies?
I think we will continue to do well in our UK market and Indian market. And we don't give a forward projection, but I think it would be a fairly normal year for us in these markets.
Sir, in May, the board had given its approval for fundraising to the tune of 2,200 crore. Have you started work on fundraising?
Yes, the one was the fundraising through QIP or other means. We have yet to initiate the action because we have time to go forward on that front. As far as debt is concerned, we have not taken any action for the time being.
Well, the market now believes that, Wockhardt has more or less sort of given up on the US market and now focused more on European markets and a couple of other markets. Would that be the right way to think? Or do you think even the US issues would be resolved and it would again become one of your key markets?
Yeah, of course, we are doing everything possible to resolve the US issue. US market will always remain very important for Wockhardt. And we are interested in US market. And we hope that we will be back into the US market. Additionally, our new drug portfolio in antibiotics is primarily directed to US and European market, where we are moving into phase 3 clinical trials.
Primarily, your focus would remain on Europe in the near term?
I think in Europe, we are only focused on UK and Irish market. That continues to remain our focus, but we are not expanding into other countries in Europe.
So, Mr. Khorakiwala, still, since US is still very much on the map for Wockhardt, what are the major events or milestones that you're sort of looking forward to in this year with respect to talks, whether it's with the US FDA? What is it that investors should now watch out for in terms of further steps?
As far as the US is concerned, we are continuing with remedial measure. And we hope that in next few quarters, we might have one of our plants approved by the US FDA.
And which plants, sir, specifically are you sort of looking out for in sort of...
No, we are working on 2 or 3 facilities, and we expect one of them would be there, and thereafter in the coming year, we hope that we would be in compliance with the US requirement. Just to inform you that all our facilities are in compliance with the UK, MHRA and Irish authorities, and even a German authority for our API facility.
Okay, so these would include the Chikalthana, Boluj and all the important plants, Mr. Khorakiwala? Any timelines?
Yes.
Any timelines on when the US clearance could come? Any timeline on when the US clearance could come?
That would be very difficult to predict for us, basically.
But sir, for which, I just wanted to check sort of for which plant are you expecting a breakthrough this year? Because you mentioned at least one of the facilities, we should see some forward momentum with the US FDA. So which plants,
Probably we are focusing on couple of plants. One of them is our biotech facility for solid dosage form that we expect to have an probably early clearance.
Okay, for your biotech facility. Would you by any chance, sir, consider a consent decree with the US FDA to move on?
No, we are not in discussion in that area.
Okay, Mr. Khorakiwala, thanks a lot for taking time out today. And I think, as Mr. Khorakiwala said, he is, passing away of Mr. Gupta clearly.